Okay, welcome to our brief lecture on an overview of holistic nutrition. Okay, again, we are using the Harvard School of Public Health recommendations to start off with. So let's take a look at what they are recommending. Um, Vegetables, at least it looks like about 30%, 30% of your diet should come from vegetables. Um, The more vegetables you consume, the better off you're going to be. Harvard actually recommends at least 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. And if you look at the way that this is kind of split up, I would say this kind of looks like if you're consuming 9 a day, maybe 3 fruits and 6 vegetables every day. We'll talk more about fruits and vegetables in another video, but um, the greater variety in especially in color. Try and eat vegetables and fruits from all different colors. Um, the better off you're going to be. There's some vegetables that are okay to cook. Um, Things like carrots and potatoes do need to be cooked, or carrots actually get more nutritious. But I think it's fair to say that most of the fruits and vegetables should be consumed raw. Cooking some is okay. Soups are pretty good as well. And then we move on to whole grains. A little bit controversial. Biggest issue with that is most of the stuff that is marketed as whole grain really isn't whole grain. So we'll take a look again in another video on whole grains, how to tell a real whole grain from a fake whole grain, because the refined grains, things like uh, refined carbohydrates, sugars, anything made out of white flour, um, processed corn, all that stuff is really it probably one of the worst things in the standard American diet right now. Unfortunately, is refined carbohydrates. But real whole grains are actually pretty helpful. So we'll look at how to decipher between a real whole grain and the junk that's on most of the supermarket shelves. Unfortunately, as far as protein is concerned, Harvard has been pretty strict about red meat. Limiting red meat, cutting all processed meats out of your diet. We'll take a look again at some of the health implications of consuming too much processed meat. Um, Beans, you get plenty of protein from beans, fish. If you eat, poultry, free range organic poultry is a good way to go. Harvard recommends um, no more than 6 ounces of red meat a week, and the poultry and fish servings are generally 4 to 6 ounces a day. That's really all you need is 5-6 ounces of meat a day, and by meat I mean chicken, fish, and poultry. The rest should really come from plants, fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grain, real whole grains. Certain beans you want to avoid, and we'll talk about those too. Healthy oils, just like the Mediterranean diet, the olive oil, the canola oil, and then water. And what you'll see up here is that there's no dairy. Um, Harvard has come out and said that you really don't need dairy in your diet. If you do choose to consume dairy, you should limit it. No more than 1 or 2 servings a day. Um, so again, this diet is based on off of the blue zone, the blue zones. This is a combination of the Mediterranean diet, the Latin American diet, like Costa Rica diet, the Costa Rican diet, and the Asian diet, the Okinawan diet. So this is essentially a non-ethnic version, compilation of those kind of the dietary patterns from those 3 parts of the world. So um, this is what people eat to live to be 90 to 100 years old. The problem is, again, is the way certain foods are marketed. Um, this is the older version. They updated it a couple years ago to the plate, but this is what it used to look like, and it's essentially the same thing. It's just a different layout for it. You want to start off with daily exercise, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of real whole grains, um, canola oil, olive oil, nuts, beans, seeds. Tofu is pretty good. Edamame is pretty good. Um, a little bit of fish, poultry, eggs. Maybe 1 serving a day, and then Again, dairy limit it to 1 to 2 servings a day, and then use sparingly red meat, processed meat. Harvard doesn't like potatoes. I don't have quite the issue with potatoes that Harvard does. Usually, what they're talking about is those big white russet potatoes. Um, they're very starchy and they do have some nutrients, but they're maybe not as nutrient dense as some of the other foods. I eat red potatoes pretty regularly, and then I get a lot of things like black potatoes and purple potatoes from the farm, blue potatoes. They come in all different colors. Sweet potatoes are packed full of nutrients. Sometimes they call it yams. So, I wouldn't necessarily mark potatoes completely off the list. I mean, it's a potato. Um, Alcohol, again, a little bit. Glass, maybe two for men a day. Um, Not for everyone. Obviously, if you have issues, you should avoid it. But a couple glasses of wine a day is okay. And then Harvard still sticks with recommending a daily multivitamin. They found some evidence that overall the evidence is weak, whether or not it's going to extend your life expectancy, but it may be helpful. A lot of people have gaps in their diet. So what they refer to this as is the anti-inflammatory diet, meaning that it combats and reverses inflammation. And essentially anything that's not on here is going to increase inflammation. So processed foods, white flour, sugar, um, the again any type of refined grain is going to really cause a lot of inflammation. Too much red meat is going to cause inflammation. Too much, well, really any processed meat is going to cause inflammation. So we want to look at the anti-inflammatory, and inflammation has been linked to so many different things. Um, what we find when some people that eat this diet is that they have a significant decrease in cardiovascular disease, all different types of cancer, um, especially colorectal cancer, but a significant decrease in all types of cancer. It reduces risk of depression by 40%. Um, and also things like allergies, asthma, even anxiety. Obviously, things like obesity and type 2 diabetes are pretty, it's pretty been pretty well documented that those are affected by diet. But I think most people are surprised by the allergies and asthma link. But absolutely, people that eat fast food have much higher rates of allergies and asthma than people that eat a more um, plant-based diet. PMS, another one. Any type of hormonal issues, this type of diet can really help. It can actually halt the progression of diabetes. So if you take someone with type 2 diabetes and you put them on this type of diet, the diabetes will stop progressing. There are some other diets that can actually reverse diabetes. As we saw again in the Blue Zone video, those people didn't have Alzheimer's. They weren't suffering from dementia. They were living to be 90 to 100 years old, perfectly with all their marbles intact. So that's awesome. And the diet is a big part of it. We saw that there's other factors as well, and of course it extends life expectancy. Um, so this is kind of another version of an anti-inflammatory diet. This is the diet recommended by Dr. Andrew Weil. And again, we'll see it's pretty much the same thing. Fruits and vegetables at the bottom. Again, they're uh, still around that almost 9 a day serving recommendation. Real whole grains. Again, we'll take a look at that. Pasta, a couple times a week is okay. 1 to 2 servings of beans and legumes. Um, that comes out to be about a cup a day, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Healthy fats, again, olive oil, nuts, salmon, avocado, seeds are great. Flax seeds are great. Ground flax seeds, try and work those into your diet. Dr. Weil says if you make one change to your diet, it should be the inclusion of flax seeds. Um, Wild Alaskan salmon, I think I would stick away from any farmed fish for right now. We'll talk about that more when we talk about environmental issues. Whole soy foods, edamame, tofu, tempeh. Um, I don't know if I'd do 1 or 2 a day, but maybe 1 a day. Uh, I would say 1 a day at max, probably. I mean, if you're a vegetarian, maybe it's okay. But I would definitely avoid the processed soy, the fake soy, the fake lunch meats, the fake cheeses made out of isolated soy proteins. Those are a little shady. Try and stick away from those. Mushrooms have their own category. I eat mushrooms every day, variety of different types. It doesn't just have to be Asian mushrooms. portobellas, the white button mushrooms. 6 white button mushrooms a day can halt the progression of breast cancer. Doing nothing else but adding those mushrooms to your diet. But they need to be cooked because mushrooms have a natural carcinogen, and which is destroyed by cooking. So make sure you cook your mushrooms. Other sources of protein, natural hard cheeses. Uh, we do. I get some goat's cheese from a local producer, organic goat cheese, and I know it sounds funky, but it's actually delicious. So I don't eat it a lot. I eat a little bit, but that's the only animal protein I get. So, eggs if you can, healthy eggs if you can get them, skinless poultry they have up here. One or two a week. Again, you don't need to eat a whole lot of animal products, but a little bit is okay. I have a whole section on herbs and spices that we're going to talk about. This is something where Harvard kind of fails. Herbs are part of a healthy diet. They don't really have, they don't fall into the vegetable or fruit category. They are, again, their own category. And there's hundreds of different herbs which are beneficial that you should have in your regular rotation. Um, you can work herbs in as, in your salads, in your foods, but also as a tea. Chamomile tea, echinacea tea is great. Again, Dr. Weil recommends supplements. He also sells supplements. So I'm not 100% sold on the supplement idea. I think you should get your nutrients from food. Again, red wine we see. There you go. So for those of us that enjoy a couple glasses of red wine, uh, we that's our thumbs up. And then dark chocolate. The health benefits of dark chocolate aren't actually as pronounced as some people would have you believe. You actually, to get it's the flavonoids in the dark chocolate that are really good for you, and to really get the anti-inflammatory benefit, you would have to eat 9 candy bars, which is, there's too much sugar and too much fat in there. So um, using cocoa out of a can in recipes is actually the best way to go with that. Although I admit, again, I do still eat dark chocolate bars. Not a lot of them, but a little bit. Okay? All right, so we're going to do some more videos for each of these categories. All right? I hope this was helpful.